Hi, I wanted to take a few minutes today and talk about canvassing and about some of our candidates. This is something that somebody asked me to do a couple weeks ago, to give them information about the candidates and what kinds of things we say and that kind of thing. And some of us have been pushing really hard to get people out to canvass more. And I know it's outside of a lot of people's comfort zone, but doing a video like this is outside of my comfort zone. As much as I like going out and talking to people and writing any kind of stuff, the videos are weird for me. So I'm going to do this, and then hopefully you're going to go canvas. There's a reason. I have somebody who says all the time, like everything we do counts, whether it's calls or cards or watching somebody's kids so they can go to a meeting or anything like that. It all counts. It's all good. But right now we're in our crunch time. We're down to our last month. And the statistics show that canvassing, knocking on doors and having conversations is the best bang for the buck to get people to the polls. And the other thing that we know is that this really comes all down to turnout. Turnout. We basically need to get Democrats out to vote. And I think in Martin County, also have a lot of no party affiliates that are looking for some answers too. And I think that's a good group that we can be trying to grab here too. So most of what I'm going to say refers to Martin County because that's where I canvass mostly, but it applies to everybody. And remember too that canvassing like door to door in the events that we do is really great. That's how we just systematically kind of knock things out and get the most information to the most people. But any conversation you have with somebody is kind of canvassing. You can do it in a group. You can do it just standing on the line in not Publix, talking to somebody and or just bopping around your neighborhood or something. So anytime you have a conversation with somebody, that's going to be the most meaningful thing to get them to vote. So I'm kind of just going to go through this thing that I wrote up, that I basically, this is how I canvass. So when I canvass, I start off by introducing myself and saying that we're neighbors or I live in the district or whatever, depending on where we are. And I was a little skeptical at first that it kind of mattered to be a neighbor, but I have really found people respond well to that when I say, oh, I live over on Manatee and whatever. They do kind of put their defenses down a little bit. I say we're just out talking to people about the importance of the upcoming election and want to make sure they're all set to vote. And, usually they're going, and do you know the candidates? A lot of times they say, yes. And even when they say yes, the answer is usually no. Even if they know, some of the major players, they don't know state races. They don't know a lot of the local stuff. And you only find that out like by kind of still talking to them. So we're not there to shame anybody. It's hard to keep up with all this stuff if you're not, right on top of it. And people have jobs and kids and, it's overwhelming. So don't shame them. Just say, we know this is tough. That's why we're here to help. And depending on the initial response, the conversation can go a million different ways, which makes things interesting and fun. And sometimes lately knocking on NPA doors, you really don't know what you're going to get one way or the other. So it's kind of like what's behind door number one. But it's fun. And yes, sometimes it's depressing or infuriating, but that's what our partners on the next doors are for. We vent, we commiserate, shake heads, and move on. Sometimes we'll first talk about something totally off topic, but sincere, like how much you love a decorative item or a plant or the peacocks running around the yard or even the skeleton sitting in the driver's seat of their car, which is a true story. And then you get back to why you're there. Canvassing, like I said, is really just having a conversation. And there are a lot of people who feel like they're introverts. And so that's like a horrible thought. But we can just pair you up with someone who is a chatterbox, and, just accompany somebody. And that still gets more of us out there. And then you'll find, too, like you do sort of want to pitch in sometimes on something that you have to say or something that's important to you. So, give it a shot. Just come out with one of us and get us out there and get the votes. So I usually start off by letting people know we have some information for them, and I start with Andrew Gillum. Now, when I go, I have a little baggie of all the candidates made up because some of our awesome, badass Martin resistor canvassing people make those up, and then we go and we leave them on the doors along with our cheat sheets and all the information in a baggie. I just don't have any with me right now. And I let them know how excited I am about Andrew Gillum. He's somebody who's kind of more on the radar. So they see this and they, oh, okay, yeah. And then I talk to them about what excites me about him. And there's so much to be excited about. And I let them know he's a grassroots candidate, the real deal. He worked his way up from nothing. He's looking out for people. He's a straight talker, warm, likable. Look at that face. And then as far as healthcare, his stance is that he believes it should be a right and not a privilege. And he wants to expand Medicaid and Medicare for everyone, and that healthcare should not be like a profitable corporation thing. Education, he wants to have teachers start at a minimum $50,000 salary. If you are canvassing and you talk to a teacher, that's what they need to hear. And some people are skeptical, like, oh, how's he going to pay for it? We'll get to that. But teachers don't even care. They want to know that somebody is looking out to get them 50 grand. So if they're a teacher, Andrew's their guy and they'll be on board. If people do ask how, he's supposed to pay for everything, he is going to, well, let's get back to that in a second. So another thing that's really exciting about him is that he will make us safer. He is someone who has already taken on the NRA and won twice. I think there was an appeal and he won. They wanted to put guns in parks, and he was the mayor and he said no. I mean, that's something that we want. And then the water, that's a huge issue around here, really where I've been canvassing. And there's just no question between him and Ron DeSantis. We can talk all day about Ron DeSantis's hellacious environmental voting record. But Andrew, you don't have to only talk about that. Andrew Gillum has good plans for the water, will, increase regulations that stop pollution to begin with, will appropriate proper funding for the things that we need. And here's another thing we need to let people know. Andrew Gillum has got Chris King, and Chris King is a water expert. He has been here a lot of times. He loves Martin County. We love him. He knows what he's doing. And to think about him in a position where he can really be in the governor's ear on the water, to me, is hugely exciting. Like, not just for the election, but for the actual water. So I always let people know that and know that they are, a package deal, and we need that change. Sometimes I'll also, depending on who we're talking to, I'll just add in that besides all that, Ron DeSantis is just a racist and disgusting person, because he is. So a lot of times with people, their thing with Andrew Gillum is, well, who's going to pay for all that? So they might not like the answer, but the answer is he does have a way to, and a plan to pay for it. And one thing he's going to do is increase the corporate taxes. People think automatically it's their taxes that are getting increased. No, it's corporate, from 5.5% to 7.5%. And yes, indirectly that increases the cost of the things we pay for, but it is going to more than offset what we are paying for now and the benefits that we do and don't get. And that's another answer that I have for people who, well, let me just back up. Another way that he's going to generate revenue basically is legalize marijuana and tax it. And that's a double win if you ask me. And I don't even smoke weed, but I think it's a great thing for a lot of people, and people should be free to use it legally, and then we can tax it and generate revenue. So I think those are good things, and people can decide for themselves, but at least there's your answer of how his plan to pay for this stuff. And when people come out and start talking about socialism, just stop them in their tracks, because that is just GOP false narrative BS. That's just what they're programmed to say to fight Andrew Gillum and progressive Democrats. Oh, they're just a bunch of socialists. Using our tax dollars to pay for things for us, like good schools and healthcare and clean water, is not socialism. It's how government is supposed to work. And not doing that, taking all our tax money and using it to give tax breaks to the super wealthy and keep all of them happy in their corrupt richness, is oligarchy. And we don't want to be serfs. So why not use our tax money for us? Push back on that socialist narrative, because it's not true, it's not fair, it's not right, and it's not deserved. So go against that. Okay. Okay, at that point, they're pretty much, either on board. Well, they're pretty much on board with him. And if they're not, you already know by then, and you're having a whole different conversation. And that's another thing. These conversations can kind of go any which way, but that's okay. Once they're engaged and generally excited about Andrew Gillum, I let them know about Bill Nelson and Lauren Baer, and that these are people with similar ideas and values, and how much we need them right now because of the alternatives. So this is pretty easy too. All you really need to say about Bill Nelson is he's not Rick Scott. And that's not really fair to Mr. Nelson because he's a lot better than that. And again, false cop narrative. Oh, he hasn't done anything. Oh, he's too old. Blah, 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 blah. He's not too old. He's a badass. He's an astronaut. And he has done a lot. And he tries really hard. But he's always been in a Republican majority, and you can only get so much done. He is a good, decent person. And Rick Scott is a lying, thieving crook who has all but destroyed our entire state as far as the environment and education, healthcare, everything else, and he needs to go. And people pretty much at this point are like, yeah, you're right. So it's an easy sell. If it's a grudging vote, whatever, who cares? As long as it's the vote, we can figure it out next election. So then we move on. So regarding Lauren Baer, any issue people want to talk about is simple enough. Her platform is people-based, and Brian Mast is party and corporate / money-based. The doors that we're knocking overwhelmingly want a people-based candidate. And often, a lot of times we just say, if they're anti-Trump, we just say Brian votes 94% in line with Donald Trump. And they realize then that he's not their guy. And if they do like that, well, then this is not your door. Move on. And the water, again, if that's the main issue, and I really, go up against a lot of people who think, oh, yeah, but he's doing well by the water. No, he's not. And you and I, anybody listening to this already knows all the ways that he's not really for the water, and he's just a dog and pony show, saying one thing and doing another. And that's what we let them know. We let them know that he's a grandstander, and to look at his environmental voting records. The League of Conservation Voters is a really user-friendly site. Lauren Baer now has that Brian Mast's toxic site. You can direct them to those. You can just flat out tell him he has literally voted to allow more toxins dumped into waterways, including pesticides and mining waste. He is horrible. And then bring out the sob story vote and tell him how he voted to allow shooting bears while they're hibernating. He's just there's so much you could go on there, but you need to push back on the narrative that well, he tries for the water. At least he tries. We deserve better than that. And same thing with the guns. He only came out about that assault rifle stuff after the Parkland kids started raising hell. Before that, it was all the same thoughts and prayers, and it's the video games and blah, 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 blah. So he came out with what he had to do to look like this, big rebel against his party and support gun reform baloney. He hasn't done anything on it since. And he's still, NRA, Mr. Baby, and will do nothing to push back on them in any meaningful way. So don't let him get away with that fake nonsense that he tries to put out there. He is a Tea Party Republican and will vote all the time, GOP, Donald Trump. If those people want that, again, you're at the wrong door and move on. If they don't want that, you need to let them know that they need to vote for Lauren Baer. Okay. You can, of course, also go into Lauren Baer's credentials and academics. She's very well educated. She has lots of experience. She's been in, the administration. And I don't always use, Clinton or Obama or whatever, because there's still so much loaded feelings about all that. Just that she was, really well experienced and credentialed working in government already, and that she's basically a public servant who's out to advance things for people and not money and profit. Okay, another thing on Brian is a lot of people mention his shorts. I tell them I understand, but his shorts are irrelevant. There are so many other horrible things about him that we need to focus on. It lets them be heard because it is annoying a lot of people. And yet, it's that fine line of do I go there? Don't go there. Let them go there and acknowledge it and then move on. Just no good can come of bashing him as a veteran. We can just say he's a war hero and a congressional coward and failure. So at this point, we've hit the big ones, Gillum, Nelson, and Baer. And if you're going on and on, it can feel like you're going to start to overwhelm somebody or the doors, okay, got to go finish my lunch or whatever. But we just have to remind them that there are some really important local races too. And those are the exact words that I use. And that's when they are like, oh yeah, I don't know anybody that, you mentioned or whatever. And this is where our handouts come in handy. These are from Florida 18 voters, and we have several different versions. Some from the Democrats, some that I've put out, whatever. But they have everything listed, and you just hand them this. And this is where they're like, oh, great, because I don't know about these people, because nobody knows. Remind them how important the state seats are. Rick Scott didn't work alone. He had Republican legislators backing everything that he did. And Andrew Gillum's going to need some help, too. We need to flip these seats. There's a lot of control in Tallahassee, and only the big seats kind of get the attention. So let them know we have these really awesome, grassroots candidates who are running because they are as pissed off as we are, and they're not taking big money, and they're grassroots candidates just with, sweaty volunteers like us standing at the door, banging on doors for them. That's how they want to get elected. And people like to hear that. And they know they're really, for the most part, not enamored with Gail Harrell and Mary Lynn Magar. Not that really anybody's even heard of her, but so they're really happy for the information. And, you can let them know. This just gives you a start. You can do your own research. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but at least they have the names. And then it's like really seriously like 1 or 2 sentences about each one. And it's like you can like see the vote come over their face. It's so easy because our candidates really are that great. So, for example, Matt Theobald, I'll say, he was born and raised in Jensen Beach, and people automatically go, oh, and he's a Martin County high school teacher. Oh, like you can almost stop right there. They love him already. Then I say, and he's been advocating for the water since he was a student himself. He's obviously extremely dedicated to fighting for schools and teachers because he's a teacher. And then I just add that his opponent, who's Toby Overdorf, is basically a nightmare, an environmental consultant who uses his business and his skills and knowledge to get around environmental protections. And he supports fracking. Who supports fracking? Seriously. So by then it's like, that's it. They love Matt. There's nothing not to love about Matt. Yay, Matt. Go, Matt. Then Ed O'Connor for District 82. So usually I'll be like, do you know who your representative is now? And they're like, no, because who knows about Mary Lynn Magar? So I'll let them know that Ed is an accomplished attorney. He's tried lots and lots of cases, and 2 all the way up to the Supreme Court, including a recycling case that he won. So yay for the environment. He's wicked smart and a straight talker. He's not going to take any crap from anyone about doing what's right for people and not profit, and for our water, our schools, everything. He's really one who I think is not on people's radar, but really is just going to go there and fight the fight. I'm excited about Ed. So let people know about that. And again, they don't even know who Mary Lynn Magar is, and tell them there's a reason for that. She doesn't show up. She's not outspoken. She takes her party votes, NRA, sugar, all that kind of stuff. And that's it. When's the last time you saw her at anything? So that's for Ed. And then Rob Levy, I let people know he's a physician who ran a big multi-office practice. And when he retired, he worked with volunteers in medicine, which sets up free clinics for people without health care, and volunteers on a federal disaster team, like one of the people who goes to, like, after the hurricanes and stuff. And to me, that says something about a person. And Rob's mad too. He's fed up too, and it's not right. And he's ready to go in there and fight for change, for us, for our water, for our health care. Those are his big things, and he can do a really good job. And again, his opponent is Gail Harrell. Pure sugar, pure NRA, pure GOP. She's got to go. And hopefully enough people at this point know it, and they're happy to hear about Rob. And then Joe Banfi, he's your ace in the hole because even if somebody is, not liking a lot of what you're saying about Democrats or whatever, they're Martin County, right? So they love Martin County. You love our 4-story height limit and protecting wetlands and all the things that make us, this small homegrown community. And oh yeah. Well, this is Joe Banfi, and he's not a Democrat. There's no Democrats running, but he just wants to serve everybody. And he is somebody who was part of the team that wrote the comprehensive plan. Most people know what the comprehensive plan is. Some people don't, and you can let them know. That's what makes us have, limited growth and not just kind of look like Miami and Broward and all that. And he was involved with all that, and he's basically what has kept Martin County so beautiful for all these years. And he's been working for Martin County in a genuine, meaningful way for 45 years. I just feel so much gratitude and hope when I talk about Joe Banfi and how much we need him on the board. And then you let people know that his opponent, Stacey Hetherington, has 0 experience, none, 0, nada. Ed Fielding was like, you're not qualified for this position. Goodbye. And she's just backed by Lake Point and the developers, and she'll just, ram everything through for that. And that's all it is. It's literally all it is. She's got the firefighters too. I don't know. Firefighters literally tell me we just do what we're told. So she'll get those votes. We need to get everybody else who loves Martin County out for Joe. And really, once you tell them he's like no party and the whole comprehensive plan thing and what he's been doing all these years, they love Joe. So if we can get enough people to know, we will have him on our commission with Sarah Hurd and have some hope on holding back the rest of them until we can get the rest of them out too. Okay, so that's kind of that. And that's it. I stress that these are all grassroots candidates, not taking money from corporations and big PACs. They're running on volunteers like us, because we believe in them. And this is our hope for change. We're in a lot of trouble right now. And this is how, personally, I feel like we have to go if we want anything to turn around. And then finally, I mentioned the amendments. I tell people right off the bat that there are a lot of them, because there are, and they can feel totally confusing and overwhelming, because they do. So we've listed the ones on our cheat sheet that we feel, are in line with progressive values. And we also have other information specifically on the amendments that we give out. Again, I don't have one here with me. But we say, look them up, do your own due diligence, but these are the ones we think. And you have to know about these before you go into vote, because if you see the sample ballot and you just go into voting that day, and that's the first time you're seeing any of that, you will never figure out, like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to be voting for here or not? So make sure that people get like a cheat sheet or ask questions, or that you refer them to another place to be able to get more information, like the League of Women's Voters. And of course, I really, really harp on Amendment 4, that it's an amendment to give people a second chance. And basically I say, it restores voting rights and civil rights to people who have formerly been convicted of a crime. And depending on how the conversation goes and how much information, a lot of people know about this already, and they're like, oh yeah, for sure. And then some people still a little bit confused, like, who, what? Make sure that they know that these people they're nonviolent crimes, no, murders, sexual stuff or anything, unlike Congress and judges, and that they have paid their debt. They've done their time, probation, whatever, and they need to get back on track with their lives. They need to be able to vote and feel like they're a part of the community, get jobs, student loans, all that kind of stuff, and have another chance to reconstruct their life. And if they don't, what's going to happen then? They're just down another bad road, making bad choices because they feel trapped and cornered. So most people, respond to that and understand that. And very rarely do I even get into the whole like Rick Scott thing and how horrible he's been for this, and how much more people's votes were restored before him. And that this is all about voter suppression and racism and, school to prison pipeline. So I usually don't go there on people's doorsteps. You can if you get somebody who's really, knowledgeable and active in the conversation. But mostly we just want to say it's second chances. Everybody deserves a second chance. Desmond Meade, the creator of this whole movement, was on Chris Hayes the other night and did such a beautiful job of just making it like, just vote along the lines of love. And that moved me so much. And I think that, if you just talk to people in terms of, we all make dumb mistakes when we're young and dumb and making bad choices and whatever, and just a second chance. Okay, so I've gone on a lot about that, but obviously it's near and dear to my heart, and no, I'm not a felon. But I want a just society where people have a voice. Okay, so then I ask people if they vote by mail, and I tell them the benefits and why we encourage it, that there's a high rate of return, paper ballots can be traced, and lots of people already vote by mail. Great. And some people just adamantly, oh no, I like to go to the polls. I like to get and you know what? Great. If they're that excited about going to the polls and filling in their bubble and feeling all American and democratic, then I'm not going to argue with that. Those people are going to vote. It's the people who are like, apathetic, or I might not, or certainly people who like can't get out. Like literally yesterday, we met an 89-year-old man who said he's not going to vote this year because he has a hard time getting out. Vote by mail, strong Democrat, gave him the thing, boom, there's a vote for every single person on this cheat sheet right there, just because he felt like he couldn't get out to the polls. Well, we found out I can't give too much information about him, but he owns something in town that he goes to all the time and should not have a problem. But anyway, it's fun talking to people. It is, and you learn a lot and you hear some great stories. So, okay, so let's see. That's it. That's it pretty much. I leave by thanking them for taking the time to chat and commiserating. If they're really on board with us and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're going to get out of this. We commiserate. We say, we know we are here with you. We're your people. And that's why we're out here. Some people don't want to get into all that and just, oh, thank you for the information. Thanks. Yeah, because but I didn't really know, they're so happy to get these. Before, in years past, my husband and I would always say, like, we wish somebody would just give us like a cheat sheet, for all down the line for people we don't know. here it is, and people are so thrilled to get them. So this is a huge one. And then, just leaving on a nice, happy note that, like, if we all do this together, if we all get out and vote and all get up and demand change with our votes, that's how we're going to turn things around. And you can kind of see some people sort of brighten up, like, okay. Lots of people thank us for coming out and doing this and giving them the information. People need hope, don't we all? I need hope. This is what canvassing is really about. It's bringing them information, just having a real conversation, getting out the hope, getting out the vote. That is how we flip everything. And that's why we're pushing so hard for canvassing and just these real conversations. And like I said, you meet lots of people, you have fun with your partner. There's always just something fun going on. And so I encourage everybody, these last 30 days, just dig deep if you can. This has just never been more important than it is now. And if you can just really dig and say, okay, I'll commit to a canvassing event and just come out and just be paired up with one of us. And that just lets more of us, get out there, because we always go safety in twos and stuff. Or you'll start to enjoy yourself and have these conversations, and you feel really much more empowered and able to cope with the daily onslaught of the horror that's happening to our democracy. So that's my spiel. Thank you for listening, and I hope some of it's helpful. Take any of this or part of it and dice it up, use it how you want it, or don't, or whatever. But please try to spread the word. Try to canvass, whether it's door to door or just having conversations with people. Facebook is just not enough. Get these cheat sheets into people's hands and let's flip it. Thanks. Bye.